Therapy was his trap. One morning, I received a text from a dear friend who lives in New York. She told me she had a dream about me, but didn't want to share the details. Still, something deep inside me knew she understood. It was like she had dreamt the very thing I hadn't been able to put into words. I immediately broke down in tears. A wave of emotions flooded through me, but at the same time, I felt a weight lift. Her message gave me a sense of safety I hadn't felt in a long time. For the first time, I felt ready to find my voice again. I began opening up about everything I had been going through. And once I started sharing, I began learning. And once I started learning, I couldn't stop. My childhood best friend had been walking alongside me through this journey from the beginning. Though she supported me from afar, I honestly don't know how I would have made it without her. She spent countless hours on the phone with me as I cried, trying to make sense of what was happening. She suspected I was dealing with someone who sounded like a narcissist, but she was afraid to say it out loud, afraid I might not believe her and that it could cost us our friendship. I had also been doing my own research. Pro tip: if you find yourself Googling your relationship, that's usually not a great sign. Around that time, Sean insisted I start seeing a therapist and even offered to help me with childcare so I could go. Of course, he had his own motives for that, but I'll circle back to those later. The therapist I began seeing also suggested that Sean might be a narcissist. She started helping me explore what it would take to get out and if I could truly heal still living in such a toxic environment. Around the same time, I reached out to my OB for support with the overwhelming anxiety I was experiencing. She prescribed me medication to help manage it and shared that someone close to her was going through something similar. That small connection reminded me I wasn't alone. My childhood best friend and I kept digging into strange, unsettling patterns in his behavior. It became increasingly clear that this went beyond narcissism. Eventually, we came to the chilling conclusion that I was likely dealing with a psychopath. Oh, did I mention my best friend is also a therapist, so she knows her stuff. The moment I began to speak my truth, everything started to shift. My neighbor and close friend connected me with someone she believed could offer insight. He, in turn, introduced me to a woman who had lived a version of my story. She had heard it before too many times from other women like me. As she spoke, she laid out a raw and honest picture of where my life might head if nothing changed. It was emotional, heavy, and yet comforting. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt truly seen, understood, heard. She didn't just emphasize, she got it. And with her came resources I hadn't even known were out there, opening doors I didn't know I could walk through. My one-woman band had slowly grown into a small, steady army of support. They checked in on me regularly, and I knew I could reach out to them at any time. I wasn't alone anymore, and that made all the difference. Sean constantly threatened to kick me out of the house, reminding me that once I was gone, I'd never be allowed back. He'd make unnecessary cruel comments saying he'd hire a Swedish nanny with big boobs or that he and the boys would be flying private to all sorts of destinations without me. He threw jabs at my intelligence, suggesting I should have my IQ checked, or making backhanded remarks like, "You wouldn't like this movie, it requires brain power." His words were meant to belittle, to make me doubt myself, to chip away at whatever strength or confidence I had left. Sean was already plotting my departure, carefully crafting a plan to ensure he'd never have to pay a single dollar in child support. One day, during an argument, he got in my face and said with certainty, "I will never let you win." I remember feeling stunned because I hadn't realized we were in a competition. Behind the scenes, he had been working with legal counsel. I didn't know exactly what he was up to. He's a pathological liar, but I began to see the outlines of his agenda. He was trying to manipulate me into signing away my right to child support. Money had always been his only real concern. When he presented the idea, I told him he was out of his mind and that I would never sign something like that. He threatened me again, saying his lawyer was already drafting the paperwork and that I'd better have mine ready to look it over. Remember when I said he encouraged me to see a therapist? It turns out Sean had an agenda. He was trying to build a paper trail, something he could twist and use against me. His goal was to paint me as mentally unstable while he quietly and consistently pushed my buttons behind the scenes, then pointed at my reactions and said, "See, she's the crazy one." He became increasingly agitated when I wouldn't disclose what I was discussing with my therapist. At one point, he even asked, "Did she say you were crazy?" One night, while his sister and mother were visiting, Sean sent me a text message while standing right next to me. In it, he said he would be pulling our son out of daycare, cutting off my cell phone, and removing me from the health insurance. I felt my blood boil. I wasn't even worth a conversation, just a cold text message while we were in the same room. I snapped, yelled at him, overwhelmed by the constant disrespect and pressure of holding everything together. I kicked the baby gate on the stairs. It caused a scene loud enough that his family heard. And just like that, his narrative that I was unstable was confirmed. This was reactive abuse, and it was only just the beginning. Sean made me feel like I was worthless, that I wasn't capable of standing up for myself. Every insult, every cut, every dismissal added up. But here's the truth: none of it was about me. It was about him trying to control me. Before I close, I want to take a moment to share the types of abuse I personally endured, because recognizing them is a first step to healing, and maybe, just maybe, hearing my story will help you name your own. Here are the types of abuse in my story and what they looked like. Psychological abuse. Sean encouraged therapy not for my healing, but to weaponize my mental health against me. For example, asking if my therapist said you were crazy and demanding access to my private sessions. Financial abuse. Threatened to cut off my phone, health insurance, and daycare as punishment and leverage. Example, sending a cold, calculated text while standing beside me to strip resources away. Verbal and emotional abuse. Regularly insulted my intelligence and ridiculed my taste. Example, you wouldn't like this movie. It requires brain power. Legal abuse and coercive control. Push me to sign away my right to child support. For example, my lawyer's drafting it. You'd better have yours look it over. Reactive abuse. Manipulated outbursts. He provoked me until I snapped, then used my reaction to justify his narrative. Example, I kicked the baby gate after a cascade of silent abuse and public disrespect. If any part of my story resonated with you, I hope it reminded you that you are not alone. Abuse takes many forms. Some leave bruises, others leave invisible scars. But every form matters. Every story matters. If you are in the dark, I hope my match sparked something in you. Thank you for spending time with me. If this spoke to you, please consider subscribing. It helps me reach more people who need to hear this and reminds me that I'm not walking this road alone either. Until next time, take care of yourself and take up space.